Hey guys, I'm Danny.
And I'm EJ, and this is the Your Living Proof podcast,
where we talk about addiction and how it affects the family, from the brutal to the beautiful and everything in between. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Your Living Proof podcast.
We're back.
We're back. I asked her if I could share something at the beginning. She said, you can talk about anything except for sex.
It's his favorite topic to just throw out. And so I just had to
put him we are real. You're just
put
normal
him in his
human
check. I know, it's just like default mode. I know.
But am I different than any other guy?
I don't know.
I would beg to differ that I'm not. Very normal, very average.
Okay. That doesn't make it right.
It does. It does. But we will discuss that later. You guys, we're so grateful to be with you today. And every time that we have an opportunity to come here, we do take it serious. We prepare for it. We put a thought and prayer into it. We also utilize the opportunity. It's kind of a unique opportunity we have, which is hearing from so many people. All the people in our program, yes. But then we have a large number of people who are looking into the program and are reaching out on different platforms, our social, our website, who get to share. And they fill out these little forms to access different resources we have available. And they get to share some of the story. And so it's taking a lot of these same issues and concerns and trying to help provide some resources for them.
Yeah.
And
we're so grateful for all of you that listen and that share with other people. We were on vacation. We went to the Bahamas, and I got a random text from someone that is a friend of mine that had, never listened to the podcast before, but she is the Relief Society president in her ward. And so she started listening to our podcast so that she was a better, help and resource for those seeking support. And she just let us know that, she started binging these episodes and how helpful it was. And I'm always so, so grateful to hear how you like the episodes, what you're learning, what you're sharing with others. So thank you. And please leave us a review too if you are loving it.
And reach out. If you listen in and there's a topic that you're waiting to hear on or one that you wish that we'd love to share. And they're difficult topics sometimes. I wish more people were talking about these openly. But the reality is there's a lot of other topics people would rather spend their time.
Yes. And if you wanted to hear a different angle of our podcast, we were actually just on another podcast called Leading Saints, and it was such a powerful episode. It was awesome, and I know many of you might have already heard it, but if you didn't, it's kind of cool to have another person kind of facilitating the discussion. And so anyway, it would tune into that if you're interested.
We're so glad you guys are here. And today's an amazing topic. We are at episode 98, so we're creeping up on that 100th episode.
When it hits 100, we're going to do something crazy, you guys. Don't
crazy.
Don't know what it is.
Record with my shirt off. Just kidding. That wouldn't benefit anybody.
No, that would be awesome, but it would.
You'd have to watch the show
really
on
be
YouTube.
Crazy. Danny would prefer to not wear clothes, I think.
I think all of us would. I would prefer, I think that's what heaven will be like. I'll just be in the perfect climate where you're just grounding, you're barefoot, walking around, maybe you have some little short shorts on, and that's it.
Okay. That was just a little peek into Danny's soul, you guys.
Comfortable. That's the ultimate. For her, comfort is long, flowy, big, baggy, sweat pant type things.
Yeah. Like if I could just feel like I was wearing a blanket. My toes on the grass would be nice, though.
My chair is falling down, so I just keep sinking lower and lower. Here we go. Let's get on subject. No one's here to hear about our life. They're here to figure out how do we help our loved one. Most everyone here has someone they care about in their life who they can see going down a destructive path. Maybe it's become undeniable, or maybe you're just curious or wondering, is it as bad as I think? Either way, let's start being proactive. We would love for you to be empowered to react to the situations differently.
Yeah.
Truthfully, it'd be so that you can act and not react. That would be the best.
Yep.
So, episode 98, here's the topic. Why 95%, and it's a little over that, why 95% of those in addiction never get the proper help. We've touched on this statistic before, but go ahead and dive in. And actually, I did. Got some more recent data from several different legitimate sites, right? The national government type sites that are over these behavioral health industries. And my goodness, it's over 95%. That's actually a generous number.
Yeah. I mean, the National Institute for Health, SAMHSA, like there are so many ways to look at this data, and it's sad.
But it's empowering. Please don't take that as a discouraging number. Take it as like, well, okay, what's the reason? Like we have to be able to do better
Well,
than
and
that.
I think if you're listening to this today, I really want, my hope is that when you finish this episode, you can see this differently.
Oh, man.
You can see it different, and then it will change you and therefore change your actions.
You can see why the world's failing when it comes to this and what you and your family can do differently. Because there are some clear things that we will outline that you can do differently to significantly increase the chances.
Yep.
Can I just share something before we start? I think I already did, but this is related to the topic. In the program, we kind of have two groups in the program, and they intertwine a lot together. In the community, there's a group of spouses that are helping a partner who has addiction, learning better to help them. And then there's parents with a child that's dealing with addiction. And that also includes like siblings and stuff. But in the spouses group, someone shared something amazing. This woman is so incredible. Man, it was just so, I guess maybe rewarding personally for me, but I also am grateful it benefited her and everyone else that heard it. And this, if I could just describe this person, incredible. A person who's so intellectually, physically incredible that they do incredible things. They run a successful home. They help in their business. They're actually homeschooling some children. Just, you would see this person be like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like you even could be on the cover of a magazine. Everything's perfect. Over the years, her loved one's addiction, she's described it as had removed her voice. And it was really personal because, she's seeing this person she loves who committed to that they were going to have a life together doing this. And the reality it wasn't. It was the disease he had, which is the same as anybody else's. And that it uses the same manipulation, the same lies. But it's really unique because it's a person that you love and you committed to that's doing it, right? So within a few weeks of being in the program, the community, going through the courses, she's like, I felt like I had a voice. Like she's like, in the way she described it, she's like, I could actually say the words. And one of the other women group said, oh yeah, like you got your backbone back. But even just being able to know for a surety that she's not crazy, that she's not overreacting, the self-doubt that had consumed her for so many years and neutralized her ability to help her husband, which kind of alludes into what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
But I thought it was so beautiful and tragic, right? Like he never intended for that to be the case. He doesn't even want that to be the case, but it is.
Right. Well, it's not that it was a malicious thing. It was just, that's the disease of addiction.
To survive, it removed her voice. Why? The most influential, loving, impactful person in his life right next to her. Oh my gosh, you guys, that's why we can't allow addiction to continue to remove the voice of any of you because you matter that much. And you're going to make a huge difference. So that was her story. But that statistic, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
Over 95% of people with a substance use disorder do not ever get treatment. So why is that?
Let's list a few of the reasons.
Let's go through it.
Again, these aren't just Googling and looking for AI to give you an answer. It's off of the sites like that we talked about. These are good government-approved sites.
In this episode, I will link all of the data. And if you're nerdy like me and you like to look at data, then you can look at it and see it in black and white yourself.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Number one, they believe the number one reason they believe they are in control of it. They actually believe that they are in control of it.
And I don't even know if that's number one, but it was listed on all the sites.
Yes.
Like the same reason. So a lot of these we just took from all of them. Some of them are the same, but that was one that was on almost every page.
They're unsure if they have a problem at all.
Denial. Did you see that? I did it in song form.
That was nice.
Okay, good.
After school special. They don't know how to live without it.
Yeah, they're not ready.
Yeah, like they can't see how they would be successful without this in their life. They're afraid to fail. I feel like that one actually makes a lot of sense. Because as we know, they've probably tried to quit and they haven't been able to. They don't know what to expect. They don't believe they deserve help.
Yeah, that actually takes an effect on a lot more than people realize.
They can't afford it.
Shocker.
Because all their money's going somewhere else. They didn't know where to go to get treatment.
This one rubs me wrong. I understand it's a valid reason. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Okay.
It is a reason. Let's just say that.
Okay. They're afraid of what others might think. Valid. They're afraid it's going to affect their job.
I'm stepping in. I know.
That was it. You're not stepping in because it's...
No, because we have these other ones that are... That's just if you look at all the sites, these were just the generalized ones that it was a consensus from across the page. What we want to do is highlight these ones that are according to the American Addiction Centers. They actually hone in on, I think, at least a little more clarity, because that list to me is garbage.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Like, especially the that they don't know where to go. I'm like, literally, you could Google where do I go and come up with 15 pages of options. So I'm not buying that one.
They're excuses, but I understand why they're valid things. Okay, so let's get into some more of the more, at least.
Yeah, so this one's according to American Addiction Centers, okay? So it's totally specific. Again, number one, they believe that they are in control of their substance use. They're not necessarily denying that it's there. They're just saying, I'm in control of it. Like,
okay, now that one's valid. And from personal experience, like having been in treatment centers for a long time and in recovery, in the rooms of recovery, that's a valid one, that they all think that they're going to somehow control it.
Valid in that they actually believe it.
Valid in that that's a reason they don't get help.
Okay.
The other ones, I'm sorry, I know their reasons, but to me, they're just like excuses.
Okay, so they truly believe that they are in control.
Yes, or they can get control of it. If it's out of control, they'll get control.
Okay. They are ashamed to admit that they have a problem.
Can I say something on that?
Every
person who enters the rooms of recovery and has to say out loud that came to realize that I was powerless over drugs and alcohol and that my life had become unmanageable. Here's something to think about.
That's step one.
I know. But the very first time I said that out loud, it felt impossible. It was the scariest thing to ever say. Anyone looking at my life would have been like,
duh.
What? You're
obvious.
You're pathetic. You're scary, actually. You look like a demon. But that is, in their heart, they're ashamed to admit it.
Yeah.
And guess who to most of all?
Themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah. They are using alcohol. This one hurts my heart. They're using alcohol or drugs to cope with other issues.
Okay, newsflash. The drugs and alcohol are not the problem. Never were. They got your attention. The sex, the porn, the drugs, the alcohol, the gambling, whatever, all the above. They got your attention. That's what caught your attention. And sure, it's wreaking havoc and that's not the problem, though.
No.
It was the solution, and it has been for a period of time until it's not anymore. I love that phrase that it's like, I took drugs and alcohol, or I consumed drugs and alcohol until they took me, or until they consumed me.
Yep.
So yes, and what that really manifests in, they're using it to cope with other issues. They can't let it go because they don't have the tools to deal with those things.
Yeah, and that is such a real one that I want to maybe talk a little bit more about.
Okay, we will.
They may have loved ones who are enabling their substance abuse. And I'm just going to replace that. They have loved ones who are enabling their substance abuse.
In group today, just today, someone was talking about like where they live. There's like a big crisis of homeless people out on the streets where we look at, and we kind of differentiate ourselves from that. And it was trying to remind everyone the harsh realities that I'm like, the only difference between your loved ones and them is in between is you. And I don't want to get off subject on that, but that is the case. This isn't our list. This is just off of the American Addiction Center's website, which is a really great website, that they may have loved ones who are enabling their substance use. Unless they're on the street.
They do have.
Oh, yeah. Every one of them.
Well, and I'll even say they may be in jail and they still have someone enabling
100%.
their substance
100%.
abuse.
Always. I did for a while. Yep.
Yep. They are convinced that they are somehow different than other people who are addicted to drugs or alcohol.
Okay. Here it is. They are, I was, and everyone that comes from a family like yours. If you're listening in, it's because you're an amazing person. You are what they describe as, I came from goodly parents. Or you are the spouse that everyone needs, everyone wants.
Yeah.
But you suffer from clinical uniqueness.
Yeah. Well, and so does this person that you love.
Oh,
they're
100%.
like, no, I'm not that. I don't need to go to rehab like those losers.
I've described this before, but if you haven't heard what happened at like the depth of mine, like when I went to treatment, my dad and brother had found me in the basement of his home. I had gotten thrown through the windshield of the car because me and a friend were trying to rob the drug dealers. That's how desperate we were. We had nothing left to pawn, sell, or rob. So here I was, broken legs, basically. Well, yes, broken legs, weighing just over 100 pounds. My veins black. My skin's kind of turning a grayish color. Eyes sunken. I get wheeled into treatment after being in detox for several days, crawling out of my skin, put in a circle of other people, and everyone's looking at me like the Grim Reaper was just brought in the room. And someone
you're like,
looks, and
you guys are losers.
I said, what are you looking at? I have no idea why I'm here with you losers.
It's an illness.
And every person that is in my situation that gets put there for the first time has the same feeling. It's crazy. But here's what's even harder pill to swallow. So do you. Your loved one, many of you listening, your loved one may have manifested or reared the ugly head of addiction so many times, like in horrific ways. Charges, you've seen it. They're stumbling. They got sloppy. Maybe, I don't know what it is, but you do. And still you somehow separate yourself from those people that need help.
Yeah.
That's what addiction does. It's a lie that uses on everybody, not the sick person, but you. So,
just throwing this out there. I was speaking with somebody this week that I met at an event, and she found out, what I did for a living, and kind of was like, oh, well, so let me just ask you, do you think that if someone has a loved one in a prison in Mexico, that if you visit them and they ask for money, do you think that's enabling them? And I was like, I know that it is. Like, I don't know how more clear of a line that could be. And she was blown away. She literally thought, she was literally sold into this idea that because prisons in Mexico are different than America, so he has to pay for things like his pillow and some things. And so I just gave him $1,000 just to help him feel a little bit more comfortable there. And I said, no, you just gave him $1,000 for drugs, and it's probably already gone.
yeah, especially in Mexico.
And I thought her head was going to explode. And this is like my mom. I was basically talking to like my mom, just like a wonderful, amazing, super capable woman that just got so swept up in that story that we just talked about. It's just crazy. So if you can relate to that, don't feel bad. You're not the only one.
No, but it's really hard because the word enabling, I hate that word for some of you because I know it just feels wrong. But it's all it is when your love and your intentions get manipulated against you to harbor and help the addiction continue.
Yeah.
And it's really hard when you see that because you never intended any of that. Now let's get into the heart of this, okay? Here, please chime in and listen to this because this is crazy. And again, we'll share these statistics. But if you go to that, what do you call that?
It's SAMHSA. So it's a Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. They have a huge website full of 100,000 different data points that you can check out.
Okay, this statistic is literally the reason I've devoted my heart and soul to this line of work.
Yep.
Because I hate it. So this is in 2021. And they should be coming out. They're always about 2 years behind, so they should be coming out soon with the next one, and it's going to be worse. But of the 40.7 million people aged 12 and older, so this is who they knew of.
Yes.
This is kind of scary. These are documented. It's been notarized somewhere, right? In a hospital, doctor, police department. They don't know about most of them, so that number is just the people that are known. That had an illicit drug or alcohol disorder who did not receive treatment at a specialty clinic was 96.8%. We shared one that was from the year before that was 94%. You remember that?
Yep. 96.8.
So let me read the rest. Or an equivalent of 40 million people did not feel like they needed treatment. That was the reason. The universal reason.
They didn't get treatment because they didn't feel like they needed treatment.
Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. What's that game show?
Price is Right?
Yes. There's the answer. We're going to get into this. Listen to that. So 2.1% felt that they needed treatment, but did not make an effort to get any.
So those 2%ers, man. They thought about it, though.
2.1 thought about it. Still didn't do anything. And then 1.1 felt that they needed treatment and made an effort to do so.
So that's from over 40 million, about 400,000 felt like they needed treatment and took action.
Can I share a news flash? Again, I just hashed on this, but it's way more than 40 million because those are the known.
Sure.
So let's say it's 62 million. I don't know, for number's sake.
Yeah.
Any of those additional addictions that are unknown, they didn't go get help.
Yeah.
They're still lying in secrecy. They're still living in harbored homes of denial. So you guys, 2.1% of people thought, okay, I need it, but they didn't do anything about it. And then 1.1% of people acknowledged it and sought help. We can do so much better. And I'm going to loudly and boldly and proudly say that in the Living Proof program, we are about 60%.
Yep.
And guess what? The others are just starting the process, so they'll soon join too. Whose loved one is in the process of recovery. Not only that, the family's healing themselves, learning how to support them and what a full program of recovery looks like.
Yeah, so you're going from 1%, a 1% chance to 60%.
And again, 60 is just because the others haven't caught up to them. As people go through the program, it will be much higher.
Yeah.
Will it ever be 100%? No, unfortunately, it will not. Some will die, some will never choose it. But over time, it will be even more than 60%. It will be the majority of them whose loved one gets a chance.
Yep.
And how beautiful they'll get a chance, a fighting chance, an educated, supported chance.
Yep.
Instead of just a chance and you just sit back and hold your breath. So can I just give... Okay, I'm glad we used all these platforms, these sites, data collecting sites to give these reasons, even though I didn't love some of them. Mm-hmm. From a humble perspective of being on the front lines in the trenches with people. Mm-hmm. Can I please just simplify all of this? That they're sick. They are flat out sick. And if you want to add into it the second thing, they're dependent. I want you to mention the third because we actually wrote this one down so we didn't forget. They're sick and they're dependent. So all the things that are listed out, they didn't know what to do. They're worried about their job, all this. Okay, I get it. They are sick and dependent on something they cannot function without. That's why.
Yes.
But touch on the third.
Well, here's the takeaway.
We've shared it a lot.
Here is the takeaway. Truly, truly. If you don't remember anything else, know this. They lost their agency. They no longer have the ability to choose like you do or I do. They can't do it. Even if they want it different, which by the way, they do. They can't choose it anymore.
Oh, every day they want it different. Every day they wake up with the intention that it'll be the last day.
They can't. And that is part of the sickness. There's truly a physical dependency at this point, but they truly, Satan has bound them down. That is part of the loss here with addiction, is the loss of agency. It's also part of the key to healing, which is the regaining of your freedom, your personal freedoms.
There's preaching there, pretty lady.
But it's the truth. So if you believe that living in sobriety and recovery is freedom, then it would follow that the opposite of that is where they are right now. They can't choose. And the more we understand that, the more this statistic is so obvious. Yeah, 95% don't get help because they don't think they need help.
Okay, and then can we just tie in? Remember that one where the one that I said, okay, that's more legitimate, that they're convinced that they somehow are different than other people? That also applies to you.
Yes.
And here's what I mean. I think if you hear that, and will you read that quote real quick?
Yeah, and we read this a lot in a lot of episodes, and we will continue to, because nothing drives this point home harder, and it is by Boyd K. Packer. Addiction serves the design of the Prince of Darkness, for it disrupts the channel to the Holy Spirit of truth.
The reason why families are so able to feel different, that this doesn't quite apply to their loved one, again, it's because they love and because of their faith. Mm-hmm. It's hard for you to believe with your loved one they've lost their agency because you knew who they were before. You know what they're capable of. You know the family they come from because of the faith that you have. Now, I think we've evolved far enough for other people. If you're talking about someone else, your friend, a coworker, son or daughter, whatever, you're like, yeah, okay. We see our loved one with the love goggles, and we actually knew who they were as a child, as a kid, as a teenager. So we know who they are, and we're like, no, surely they're just got to knock it off. Mm-hmm. So this is a very critical thing. There might be a handful of you listening whose loved ones are in the beginning stages. They're becoming dependent and relying on something. Maybe there's still this opportunity to insert yourself and get them where there's a behavior issue. Mm-hmm. Although I highly doubt it, because you're just catching on now that they've gotten sloppy and it's worse than you can imagine. But for most people, think of where your loved one's at now. And how maddening it is to see, like, wait, what is it going to take for them to wake up? Like, what's going on? Stop getting frustrated by it. Stop getting angry with it. Mm-hmm. Stop wondering if something's wrong with them, and just accept that they've lost their agency. They're really sick and they just need this thing and they can't live without it. And yes, they do want it out of their life most days. They keep thinking, go back through that list. I guess or some of them apply. Yeah. They think they can control it.
Well, and then also it's that they are afraid to fail. They're afraid to fail because they failed so many times.
I can speak on that from personal experience. It became exhausting. That's what really defeated me.
They don't know how to live without it. They forgot how to live without this because, again, they are using alcohol and drugs to cope with other issues. Like Danny said at the beginning, the drugs, the alcohol, the gambling, the porn, that's actually not the problem. It's their solution to coping with whatever it is underneath there that they don't know how to deal with either, that they found, okay, well, at least when I use this, I don't have to live in that scary space. Yeah. I get to go to Disneyland instead.
And I think we harp on that, but it's actually empowering when you realize maybe every time you find alcohol, you hate alcohol. Maybe there's certain drugs and vaping and you hate it, or you hate the doctor who got them hooked on this or something. It's to take your energy away from that thing. Mm-hmm. Start looking at your loved one for what they are, and that's sick and being held hostage by this. So, okay, let's back way out. These statistics are not ours. These are just there, and we'll provide that data. But these numbers are terrible. So why? Now, you've heard me say before, I wish there was a solution that would help everyone in every situation, no matter where they are. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist, not with most things.
Yeah.
But there's a huge net to go and rescue and save most of these people. There's something that has to happen, and then there's a second thing that has to follow. The very first thing is that someone or something has to intervene. Stop waiting. Everyone out there questioning, wondering, living in doubt, like that woman I shared at the beginning who lost her voice, is kind of always in denial. Stop waiting. Stop waiting for the day when this just somehow goes away. It won't. Everyone's waiting, though. Mm-hmm. Someone or something has to intervene. It's said on probably every other podcast that we share. But for some reason, no one thinks it applies to them. It drives me insane.
And that something that has to intervene is you.
Because what are the only other two choices?
Death or a judge.
Yeah, like criminal. A judge is like a police officer, a courthouse, a judge.
Right. But our program actually teaches you the actionable steps to learn how to be that person.
And none of those, well, death is a guarantee that it's over.
Yeah.
The others don't guarantee anything, but it's got to happen. So if you're sitting there waiting, wondering, questioning yourself, I just plead with everyone that we will stop. Like, so many people wait so long till it becomes so terrible and so bad and so dire that to take action. Someone has to intervene. Someone has to step in.
Yep, that's the only thing. To change the number from that 1% number, we got to move that. Got to move that needle. That's the only thing.
The second thing, so yes, it's the people to start taking action, like doing something. The hard part is they can't because they don't really know. They don't have experience with this.
No, they don't know how, which is why you have to get professional support.
So the thing that follows, someone or something has to intervene. The second thing that follows is the family that learns. They learn how to do it. A family that gets their house in order, who unites everyone, puts together a plan, starts to heal themselves, stop believing the lies of addiction. So when that person finally surrenders, the family's fully ready to go.
And you know what's interesting is, again, how the journey of the addict mirrors the journey of the loved ones, because what's holding you back? Maybe you're afraid of what others are going to think.
Comes back full circle.
Maybe you're afraid it's going to affect your job.
Reputation.
I mean, think about it. It's true. It really is.
It's the only fatal illness that takes a person and then infects the others around them, and they can't see it because your symptoms are different. Why families fail to act, let me just list some obvious ones, but they're true. There's faith. Because of their faith, they're just waiting for this.
Well, they're waiting for God to intervene. Like, God will intervene here and he will change this person's heart.
Yeah, we've done several episodes on that. Hoping, just maybe it's season, something changes, it'll magically happen. Uniqueness that clearly I understand. Okay, there's millions of people out there suffering. None of them get help, but we're the Johnsons, so we blame it. Blame's a big one. Blame, you could be right. There could be something very significant. Someone betrayed them, a trauma, something that happened, something you did maybe. There's stigma, denial. These are just to name a few. All of them, they just do is they stop you. They impede you from moving forward. And what happens to your loved one while you do nothing?
Oh, they just gain momentum.
They get worse. Consequences get more. They have a higher risk of death. So
and everyone around them falls apart more and more and more.
That's the tragedy of it. I shared that group today with tears in my eyes, which was I should have died from my addiction, and some do. But the part that's the most tragic isn't what happened to me or what it did to me, is not being able to see what it was doing to those that I love.
Yep.
And that we have a guarantee. That can be 100. That percent can be 100%. Uniting families, using this to fortify, getting on the same page. That's just going to increase the chances that you love them, but it's going to make sure your family's guaranteed that we don't allow this tragedy to continue anymore.
Well, and that's the crazy thing about addiction too, just to keep in mind, is that if you weren't positive that it was an actual illness that takes over someone, think about the fact that they can see the house burning down. They can see it. Just like you, they're standing in front of a burning house and they are watching it burn to the ground. And what are they doing? They are thinking about the remodel. They're thinking about designing a new kitchen, having a different life. They are not able to see what you're seeing and do what you're doing. they would choose to watch it burn to the ground and live in la la land while it's burning.
Okay.
While you're getting the fire buckets and calling 911. They're not.
Can I give a practical example of that? Because that's like a beautiful one I think the people listening to could relate to. But like from your loved one's perspective, here's just one of 100 experiences I had. I was incarcerated once. I think my family helped bail me out. I was starving. I was sick. I had been withdrawing in there. I had moments of clarity in there because I had no poisons to be like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
To feel the reality of it.
Yeah, it was heavy. It was hard. Like, use the good old payphone. This is back before Ubers. Called a taxi. Got a ride home. I had to pay the guy, right? So I go inside. I had just spent a few days seeing the reality of my life, the wreckage, the sorrow. It was all there.
Yeah.
I ran inside and I flipped my washing machine over on its side because underneath I had some drugs hidden that I knew about. And I was like fixated about those the whole time I was in there. All I remember is minutes later, the taxi driver kicking my legs. I had left him out there and gone in and did one thing. I got high. Can you see how disgusting that is that you would go? I mean, I hope that resonates, that it's like...
No, you just illustrated the point. And that's
crazy.
why it hurts so bad if you love somebody, because you're like, wait a minute, you mean you're totally aware of the destruction you're causing in my life and you're not even thinking about it?
No,
you
they're
don't
not.
even care? No, they're not. They're too sick.
I wasn't even thinking about the guy getting paid.
No,
just went in and passed out. And it's not because they're bad. It's not because something's wrong. They're just sick. They're really, really sick with zero ability to manage these other things. The only thing that they have to manage it is what they can't get off of. So I think this all makes sense, okay? We're there. But what's hard is when it's your loved one is accepting all of these things. What I hope and pray is that through some of these episodes, it'll fortify you and your family to say, you know what? We're going to do it. Because the families that have success are the ones that stop doing this in-house. They stop doing this alone. They stop waiting for a magical day. They get strategic. They get a plan. They get prepared. They invest in something to say, we are going to act differently. We're going to do something different to give our loved one a chance. That's what it's all about. So at the end of the day, that statistic of 1 or 2%, I know there's other factors, there's other variables. There are people who can't afford it. There's the homelessness issue. There's the corrections department. There are lots of issues out there, people that don't have families. But my goodness, for those who do, these numbers can be drastically different. Your loved one actually has a legitimate chance. If it looks impossible, please know the road ahead will be difficult, but it is 100% possible. Mm-hmm. But to make it possible, you're going to have to do some things that are very scary and difficult, things that you've been unable to do on your own.
Yeah.
That's
Again, mirroring your loved one's journey. Because what's step 1 in recovery? You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, admitting that you're powerless.
You have to admit that you're powerless. You have to admit that you are powerless to change this the way you have. That you're going to have to do some work and change yourself and learn how to actually approach this tactically if you want change.
Amen.
So on that one, I'm going to end with a serenity prayer for families. God grant me the serenity to accept that I cannot change other people, the courage to change the person that I can, and the wisdom to know that it is me.
Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see ya.